Hi, I'm Aaron, and this is Rabbit Holes with Aaron. And I'm 20-year Marine Corps veteran, a beekeeper, and a podcaster now, and a lot of other things. And today with me as my guest on my podcast, I have Brian. Brian, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey, I'm Brian. I'm Aaron's hopefully soon to be son-in-law. I am a man of many traits. Not a beekeeper yet, but I've been kind of thinking about it. I've got some stuff I've been looking at. And every time we go anywhere with bees now, kind of addicted to them. But yeah, I'm obsessed with motorcycles, and I've got some tales to tell for Aaron. I think he's got some stuff he wants to hear.
Well, yeah, and for the listeners too. And so we talked a little bit about, as is my habit, or my custom, I guess, we talked about what we want to start with on Rabbit Holes and see where it goes. And that is nomadic lifestyle. Brian has assured me he has some juicy stuff. And, and I'll start because my whole life, and it sounds like I have this in common with Brian, but like my whole life has been moving, 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 moving. Like I have never lived any longer. Usually I've never lived anywhere longer than a year or two max. And then the Marine Corps came in, and actually I stayed in place more than my life before the Marine Corps. So I was anywhere for 3 years, stationed in a place for 3 years. So I was in the same place for 3 years at a time. And then I got out of the Marine Corps, and my first place I lived was in Little Elm, Texas, and I lived there for 5 years. But my kids were finishing up high school, and that kind of kept me in one location. And ever since then, man, I haven't lived anywhere longer than a year. Sometimes I haven't lived anywhere longer than a day. So that's my experience.
Those are the good times, the good places. That little spot in your memory of when you don't remember exactly where you were at or what was going on, but you just remembered just this moment in time when you knew you were going to pack it up and leave again, and everything else just kind of falls away, and you're like on to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. There was only one point in my life when I was in one place for any amount of years at a time. That's including like home or even the same town. My great grandma, she lived in the same house since 2 decades before I was born.
Yeah.
But other than that, growing up, my dad worked oil rig. My mom, she had no income, so we moved all kinds of homes and places and different houses and schools and all that stuff. And also the CPS lifestyle, man, that was a big one. All these different boys ranches, things like that.
Yeah. Different places and different faces. Nobody has to tell you about that. You already know, right?
Yeah. It's amazing how many, when you really stop and think about it, you go to a different place and you've been accustomed to one for so long. You go somewhere else. And when you stop to think about it, I don't know if you ever just stop and people watch in coffee shops or anything, but when I have nothing else going on, that's something would do with my free time. But I go to somewhere else and it strikes me, you never know when it's going to happen. It just kind of, you stop and you're like, man, there is so many people and all these different faces. You kind of made me think about it. You go somewhere and you just see more people that you've never seen before, and it just amazes me sometimes that all these towns and places have capacity for just untold amounts of people.
Right. They just keep coming, like the
Yeah,
bees on the bee
yeah,
removal we did
yeah.
together. Like they just kept coming
They
and just
just
keep
keep
vacuuming.
coming, literally, quite literally coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's it's yeah, it makes you appreciate the moment. If this moment might be over, and this moment with everything I see and everything I feel and all the people I know, you know, for instance, we're getting ready, we're kind of breaking the Velcro on all the seals of our life because we're going to be going up to the Northeast to visit those 18 states,
Wow.
um, in the middle of June. And so we're already like, I'm preparing my Bible study that I went to this morning, like, hey, I'll be leaving. Somebody else will have to facilitate for a while,
Yeah.
and so we're giving our notice, on different places and different groups we're a part of, and yeah, so that we can
Northeast.
travel.
I've never been up that way. The furthest northeast I've been was Arkansas. I've been west like you guys, but I did notice on your sticker collection on the side of your RV that y'all hadn't been up that way.
Yeah. Yeah, we're stereotypical RVers in that way. We got the sticker on the side of the RV. We got little stickers for each state. You just stamp them on there. Where everything's covered except for Utah in the Northeast. So, and Alaska and Hawaii. But I
Those
don't
are gonna
even
be
know
kind of
how.
hard to get your RV to. I'd say.
I know. We'll have to just fly there and come back and put the sticker on Hawaii.
I almost, before I met you and Jill and Jess and everybody, I was probably like a week away from getting a plane ticket up to Washington and then taking a boat to Alaska and seeing what kind of work they had out there.
Yeah.
I hear there's
Okay.
lots of money to be made.
Yeah, we're planning. We're hoping that it'll be in the next year. We'll be going driving road trip all the way up to Canada to Alaska. So that's what we're hoping for. We're planning for. Yeah.
Visit Nova
Yeah. Jill
Scotia
had.
for me.
Yeah. Something. I don't know. I don't even know where Nova Scotia is. I've seen it
It's
on a globe, so I know it exists.
I think like southeast, kind of near the border, like the far east of Canada. It's I've seen some roads out there and I've always wanted to go ride on them.
Okay.
Nova Scotia is a beautiful place for sure.
Yeah, but there's something about being nomad that makes us different than everybody else. And I don't know, does it make us more grateful? What do you think it is? Well, I mean, there's a lot of things, but like let's focus on one. Like, what is it about being nomadic that makes me so different? Because I'm strange. I mean, in all my circles.
I think for one, it's a desire for new things. I get very bored. I like scenery. I like to but I like to go places, but I don't like to do a lot of things. So I love to go see these new places and just like fish or just like I said, people watch or just kind of look at the sights. But I think it has something to do with we grew up kind of nomadic, and so that's the way that life was for us and what it was supposed to be, internally. And so now as adults, we just have this. I don't know about you, but like the 9 to 5 thing, it's it's rough for someone who loves to just pack it up and for a certain period of time would just decide I don't want to be in this town anymore and just pack up your 95-liter bag and just you know
Yeah.
hit the road, stick your thumb out. That was I think part of what fueled it the most was once I got a taste of that, like just upping my roots and just take like walking. It was the what's next? What am I going to go through next? What's the next trial? What's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. There's a lot in there. Yeah, we kind of get a different appetite, right? Well, let's contrast. We're trying to figure it out. So let's go to the other extreme because I have hours of endless joy watching people that live in small town Justin their whole life. Like, it's so much fun and in a really positive, uplifting way. They know so much about their neighbors. They know so much about everybody. They're always gathering this information. They know all the good places to eat in town. I mean, I would almost probably guess that every person in Justin knows everything about Justin, right?
yeah.
You can talk to somebody on the street and say, I've got a problem with my boot. And they're like, oh, yeah, over there on 4th Street, we got a boot repairman. Well, now don't pay attention to the sign because it's a thrift shop. But if you go in, and
Yeah.
everybody, like, is the local guy. It's amazing. And, they all go to Allsup's or whatever, and they go
Yeah.
to Homeland, and they're like, me and Joe were like foreigners in a foreign land. We're like, where's the Walmart? They're like, we don't know. And I'm like, what? You don't know where the Walmart is?
You know,
Yeah, we think there's one in Roanoke, but that's outside of Justin. We don't ever go there. It's like watching The Lion King, right? And he's like, "What's over in the dark area over there? We don't know. We don't go over there, son." Kind of thing. It's that way with small town people to some extent. It's easy to see anybody's limitations. That's the first thing we can see. I can
yeah.
see the limitations of being a nomad the same way, but I'm I'm really digging down deeper to see the treasure that
Yeah.
is local small town life, and they're living it and loving it. But some of the drawbacks to it are you're living with your ex the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like,
Your
no, they live
ex,
in that house. They live in that house right over there, right? It's
and
like,
not just
no.
them, but the in-laws too, their entire
Oh my
family.
God. Right. God forbid they owned a feed store. You know what I'm saying? Saying it's, and so for my life, when I went through a divorce or whatever, like in the Marine Corps, I just kept moving. Like now I'm on the West Coast, right? I'm like 2,000 miles away from my ex. I don't bump into them at the gas station or any part of my life,
Yeah.
right? They can get as far away from me as they want. They will never, I guarantee they will never see me again unless they come looking for me, right? And that's not the way it is here. And it's a total different way of thinking.
Yeah.
People know what's going on with their ex. There's a new car parked inside their house. I guess they're in a relationship now. I'm like, the beauty, brings me to the beauty of nomadic lifestyle. The anonymity is so
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
The anonymity, right?
Nobody knows
You
who you
are,
are.
I could be John Smith tomorrow, literally, like at an RV park in Nebraska, and everybody be like, it's John Smith.
Yeah.
This is John Smith, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he works on motorcycles. I mean, you could just, I don't make anything up. I don't lie or deceive people,
Yeah.
but you literally could reinvent yourself
Yeah.
in every new place you go.
It's funny. I had that temptation a couple times, and I could understand how. I've gone off track a little bit, but you see some of the videos of like these guys that have these stolen valor encounters, and me,
Okay.
and you see me like I was in really good shape because I was walking everywhere. I think my journey that I took in total, I didn't walk the entire thing, but I had a 95-liter bag with everything that I needed to go for an entire season. Uh, and people would encounter me at truck stops or whatever. I'd hang out, at some Waffle House for however long, and people, old men would always ask me, they're like, "You serve?" And I'm like, "No, no." And this thing would come over me, like I could be whoever I wanted to be, uh,
Right.
and that was an interesting thing about it. But being anonymous is definitely one of the perks. And then whenever you cross over into a small town like Justin, and you just kind of pop into the local hole in the wall, and everybody's like, you're just new. You feel noticed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a weird paradox of you don't. You're on this journey and you're not being noticed, but at the same time, you are. But it's in a good way.
Yeah. It's like a blank slate. It could be a blank slate. And I guess I love where our minds are that we're like, yeah, I guess you could do nefarious things if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But I like the good part of it. The good part of it is, you know, I'm Aaron and they don't know who that is.
Yeah.
But if they hang out with me for 30 minutes, they're going to find out. If they can get past any judgment or, oh, you're from Texas or whatever. I don't know. We're going to be going to some blue states over there. I don't know. Texas, huh? They might try and burn my truck. I don't know what they're going to do, but that's okay. And I'm going to believe that good things are going to happen because I don't know. I just set my sights that way. But yeah, so there's this freedom, right, that comes from it. And also, like they say, home is where your heart is. And you see, that it's a romantic thing and you're like, wherever my wife is, that's where my home is. And my home is wherever my literal heart is.
Yeah.
Like it could be in Nebraska. It could be it could be in New Hampshire. It could be in California, in some really hazardous places or whatever, at least for me, in my perception, I can be at home there because I'm there, you
Hmm.
know, and my RV is not my home. Where my body resides is my home. And you get all the benefits of it being my home, not just
Yeah.
you, but a person that comes into my sphere. It's like, yeah, come on in, stay a while. Do you need a cigar or a drink of water or maybe an old fashioned? What do you need?
Even just
You're in my home
yourself
now.
benefits from that way of thinking. Like not even just like anyone who comes into encounter with you. Like this is my home. And you're welcome. Like for yourself mentally. Like Like that's a really important way to look at things and to realize, especially from a Christian perspective, realizing that, the God of heaven and earth resides within us and with us,
Yeah.
is that like wherever you are, no matter what is happening, you're home. So you can relax and know that your home is taken care of because for one, it wasn't built by you. Like you're residing in it, but you don't own it. It's gonna get taken care of. So that's a really awesome way to think about it. I never really put that one into perspective. I always went with the home is where you hang your hat because I had a cowboy hat on 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these are good guidelines. And, there is something too for a dwelling that I reside in, the place where I lay my head and, my RV as it is my home. And I have to say, like maybe home is in layers.
Yeah.
And like my ultimate home is where my body is. And
Hmm.
then like there may be a spiritual home inside or something. And then
Yeah.
as I move out, like I start to make everything my home, moving out over time. And so I can say Justin is my home, and then I can say Texas is my home, and then I can say USA is my home.
Yeah.
And eventually I get up to the earth is my home, right? But but yeah, and I feel good about being on the earth, and I feel really good about Texas. And well, I mean, I feel good about all of them, all the way. I don't want to say this one's really good and this one's all right. No, it's good all the way down and all the way up, right? I'm so grateful to be on this planet, and I'm so grateful to be on this continent. But I look forward to seeing other continents, and I'm so grateful. I've been all over America, and I'm so grateful for every place I've been, and every place was my home to some extent. I don't know. We're zooming way
No,
out and
I think
zooming
I'll have
way
to.
in.
I think I'll have to exclude Louisiana from that one.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
a rough patch for me there. That Louisiana was there's some scary stuff down there, man. Some scary stuff. You get down there and all you've got's your bag and your guitar and the way that I'm dressed, cowboy boots and blue jeans, and of course I had my Doberman with me. But you go down there and I was all the way southeast in a place called Violet, Louisiana, which is just outside of New Orleans. And it's like where the boot breaks apart and there's just like marsh swamp everywhere, but
Yeah.
somehow it's still like gangland. And so I had gotten a ride there, but I didn't have a ride out. And so I was stuck in this just like I was paranoid. I was so paranoid. That place is
Yeah. You got some bad vibes from there.
think I'll stick to country Louisiana. Rural.
Okay.
Rural Louisiana.
So this may not seem like it, but this is our travel guide podcast, and here's some areas you need to avoid. Right? There's a lot
Yeah.
of good places.
Yeah. This video is sponsored by
Yeah, Travelocity. No, not really.
No, hey,
Not sponsored by anybody, but go ahead.
a really cool thing. I use OnX Hunt is what I used to use when I was traveling. That's a really cool one, and you can see property lines like within the like inch or foot. And whenever I was needing to pitch up camp somewhere, I'm 25 miles in between anything, and there's just like cattle country everywhere. There's cool apps out there for like just seeing like things like that, property
So you
lines.
can so you can see a legal place to camp
Yeah,
for the
find a
night or
legal
whatever.
spot to just like public land kick up. And so if anybody bothers you, you're like,
Yeah, yeah. Is it best to just kind of stay out of sight? I've seen this, and because I've seen this TikTok like guy that's you can subscribe to or maybe YouTube or something, but he lives in bushes in public places,
oh
and he'll
wow,
be like, "Oh yeah, I can sleep in here. Nobody'll know for days at an
what?
intersection in a city." And he puts a little tent down in there like a sleeping tent and a sleeping bag, and he's got a little fire or stove or something. And he's like, and he has a way to get out because he'll have cops that kind of pull up and look in the bush, and he'll like have a way to escape like behind a fence line and crawl away. And they'll like come looking for him. Oh, there's no person in here. Okay, well, but he can't be seen, but he can see out pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, he makes a deal about that. Now it's probably public spot property, and as long as they don't see, it's seeing you that bothers them. If they
yeah,
don't see you, and if you're legal,
That's a
but what do you
crazy way
think
to do
about
it.
that?
I would always try because I had my big bag with all my gear in it, and I had this detachable day bag that I would
Right.
keep like daily hygiene stuff, like granola bars and snacks or little bits of cash, and I would leave my big cash in my bag, which I would go stash in like a leaf pile somewhere a mile out of town. I would do something like that, and but I never really camped like I always tried to stay out of big city environments so that I would be able to be in town and then retract back to my camp, which was hopefully around like a creek somewhere, so I could go back and fish and spend my day. But I always wanted to be back to my campsite by nighttime. But there was one time I had stayed in a truck stop and the weather was real bad. And I had stayed there for like 2 days in the truck rest area. I just had my dog with me and my bag set up with all of his service dog vests set up so people knew like to leave him alone or whatever. But whenever I
Yeah.
ended up leaving there, the weather cleared up, and maybe like 2 hours into leaving town, the weather came back again. And there was this. They had a couple 18-wheeler trailers pulled off to the side, and I ended up setting up my camp underneath this 18-wheeler trailer. Remember praying before I went to sleep. I was like, this was before I was a believer. Like, God, if you're
Yeah.
there, don't let this trucker pull off with me camped out underneath this trailer. That
Yeah.
was the most urban experience for me. But yeah, I usually tried to keep it off of medians or, somewhere. I was more concerned about my things being stolen.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah. Well, and it's funny. I think of a couple different ways we can go from here because I have a story about camping at a truck stop, but it's a little bit different than yours. But that brings me to the thing, and I think I want to get back to that. But that brings me to the thing. So my very last episode was with a guy, and we talked about nomadic life, but it was from a fifth wheel guy, myself, and he had built his home into a van. And it's really nice. He has a bed, a refrigerator, solar power, like a bucket for emergency bathroom stops, but that's pretty much it.
Good old bucket.
And a high back van. That was it. And he drives and he camps in different people's parking, not lot, parking, driveway. There we go. And, maybe he house sits or farm sits or whatever. And his work is all online. And so we're getting it from another level now. We're getting it from the ground level with you.
Yeah.
Like, what does nomadic lifestyle look like for me and my backpack, and my dog? And
Yeah.
so I really appreciate that different viewpoint. But I want to share my own story, and then I want you to share more about your story as well. But it's camping at a travel stop. So we were driving and we're getting gas, and some guy, and this is like normal life, RV life, right? Some guy's like, hey, I'm not sure. Something looks like it's wrong with your wheel. So we go back and, you know, we drive with it, driving around the parking lot and then look at it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, the bearings are definitely blown on that side of the axle, right? And like, how long have we been driving that way? I don't know, maybe an hour. You know, I don't know if you know much about it, but the axle in the spindle and it's where you put the bearings on. It's where you connect the tire to it and everything else. The spindle was melted because it had been so much friction and stuff. So we're like, okay, time to replace yet another axle, right? It was really the second one, which
Wow.
the third axle we've ever owned on that RV. So it was the second one that I had melted down in my travels. And so I pulled up that old parts list and I ordered the parts and I had them shipped to a buddy who was a veteran in Minneapolis. And we lived at this truck stop for 3 or 4 days, but the owners of the truck stop were Indian, like straight from India.
Yeah.
And they spoke all right English, but not that good. And this, tall Indian guy came out and like, what are you doing we're going to call the police. You need to move. And I'm like, hey, and the first day I was like, yeah, our axle melted. We're trying to get it fixed. We're talking to insurance. We're trying to get some stuff to happen. And then eventually we ordered the parts, like day 2, we ordered the parts, had them shipped to my buddy, and he comes out on day 3. And, Here's what it's like for us. We
Yeah.
got the grill. We got the grill out there. We got some camping chairs. The canopy's pulled out. We're like, we live there now. That's just how it is, right?
This
We're
is
at
my home
roasting
now.
weed. Yeah, we're roasting, walking the dog around the parking lot. This is our new yard. You know what
You
I'm
guys want
saying?
some ribs?
Yeah. And he comes over and we're like cooking hamburgers or something. And he's like, so you really got to leave now, right? We can't have you out here. Semis are coming and going. They're
Yeah.
parking. We're parked out in the semi parking area. And what ended up happening, just to end the story really quickly, like we ended up talking to a church, and church was like, yeah, you can stay in our parking lot for a week. That's no big deal. We ended up getting our parts. I installed the axle, installed all the parts in the parking lot. We went to church on Sunday there at that church. And then we were back on the road, right? And so, but yeah, that's the but a lot of different kind of nomadic lifestyle, but also there's a lot of elements that are in common, right?
Yeah. Yeah, things going wrong. That's a that's a big one that happens with nomadic lifestyle. When you're at home and you have an established house in some place, the thing that's going to go wrong is the freeze happens and your plumbing busts and you call a plumber and he comes out and he
Right.
replaces it, or your landlord does it, or the power goes out or something. But when you're 1,700 miles from home, and for you, like your axle breaks and you have to go through all this process of dealing with people and possibly law enforcement and just, I know it's kind of rude, but just general Karens. That was something that you come into contact with a lot when you're living a unconventional lifestyle. And that was a big one. But things going wrong, man, equipment malfunctioning sucks. It
Right.
sucks bad. I remember one time I was on Lake Fork. This was just a smaller, like, pre-trip. I was testing some gear. I was at a friend's house at their property, and I had just made the switch to the kind of like single tent, the small pyramid style. It's like knee high. It's probably maybe exactly 6 foot long, and you crawl inside of it, and it's really only made for laying down and sleeping in.
Yeah.
And I had set up camp, and I'm dealing with this new tent style. And I'm getting accustomed to it, and I'm learning how I want to set up my fire. Because you have to have a fire. I remember it was probably around the season that it is now. It was just starting to warm up again. It's still having these cold snaps at night down to like 33 degrees. And this just out of nowhere, like it's a beautiful day all day. I'm just out, I'm fishing, I'm messing around at camp, keeping the fire going. And out of nowhere, right when the sun goes down, like I just had my tarp just kind of pulled up, not really tied tight or anything, just kind of thrown up there so that I had some shade. This just crazy windstorm blows in. And for me, like, that's the worst because you're on this lake, and then the bank is just this long slope up. Then I'm camped on this slope so that when I'm laying in my tent, my feet are pointed towards the water. So I'm laying on this incline,
Yeah.
and the wind coming off of this water is probably ripping at 35, 40 miles an hour. And I'm just out of nowhere, not prepared for it. I had my fire like right next to my tent. I had a little kid's compound bow that I would use for, like, if I had to shoot a squirrel, or no, squirrel's hard with a bow, but like for anything like small
Yeah.
game, like a rabbit or something, I would use that. And like immediately, this is the second night into my little, like, I was doing just a week kind of excursion. The first night in, the wind blows my bow over into the fire, so the strings pop immediately. And then my tent is just, I don't have the rain cover on it, and rain's blowing in, and there's huge tall trees, so I couldn't even see the storm was like about to blow in until it was just, I'm packing up my food into my cooler as it's coming in, and didn't have time to do anything. So those are definitely highlights of some of your nomadic lifestyle trips. Is you're going to remember the most is when things go
Yeah.
wrong and you're
Yeah.
looking back, because that's how we learn, right? On doing that kind of thing. You don't have people that you can just pay a couple $100 to come out and fix things for you. You have to operate by your mistakes. And so that's always the cool experiences, is when something goes wrong and it's frustrating in the moment, but now 5 years down the line, you're going through it again and you're like, oh yeah, I went through this before. This is how I'm going to do it differently because I remember that didn't work.
Yeah, yeah, and I was thinking about that, and that's definitely an attribute of a nomadic life is, you know, oh well, the axle's melted. Well, who am I going to get to fix it? You look around, and there's only you,
It's just you in
and
a parking lot.
whatever tools you brought, and that's it. And it's like you can't call in a lifeline. Nobody's flying out to the outskirts of Minneapolis
The
with their
Amazon
tools.
delivery guy's like, don't look at me. I don't
Exactly.
know.
Like, no, that axle goes here on the RV. He's like, hey, I'm just delivering, just here you go, you know.
To
Yeah,
like Walmart, they
so
can't have you just install the parts.
the self-sufficiency quota is
Mm,
like off the charts,
yeah.
but somehow we rise to it, right? We rise to it. We rise to that. Okay. Well, and then you're done with it. You're like, well, I guess this is what I do now. Axles on the side of the road in parking lots.
Yeah.
That's a skill I hope I never use again. But if I have to, and that's literally what I did. I was like, went to my Amazon, but I went to my email and found the time I purchased all the parts to replace my axle, and I ordered them again and had them shipped to my buddy in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
But, and and also I had walking pneumonia at the time. That's another wrinkle, and it was like, and in the afternoon I'd start running a fever, and then I'd run a fever through the night and like soak my bed and get up in the morning and feel like hopefully it's going to be better today, and I'd feel good for a few hours, and then I'd be completely fatigued and
Oh yeah.
running a fever again. And so, and we were trying to troubleshoot that, but like, well, I don't feel good today. I feel
Yeah.
like laying down. I don't feel like doing anything today, but I guess I'm doing an axle replacement. It's what it is, right? And you find inside, at least I don't know, you can say for yourself if this is true, but I find like, wow, I can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm, well, can you fix my tractor? Probably.
Maybe.
I've never done it before, but like I look at the sheer amount of things that it's only been me there and I had to fix.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I probably can,
Yeah.
But then again, if I can, so can you. So there's that.
Yeah. There's definitely a level. I think that everyone should, at some point in their early life or when they're still close to their prime, live some type of nomadic lifestyle. They should get out and go travel and go do something where they have to be self-sufficient for at least a couple months. Because you get introduced to this like get it done mentality. You don't have another option. You're gonna take this massive financial hit if you quit now and just have somebody
Yeah,
come rescue you, and you're gonna have to go through all of this mess, or you could trust yourself and the confidence that you have to get through this trial. And it instills something inside of you that I can recognize sometimes, like when little things come up and I'm like, oh, I can do that, you know, and I can accredit it to those experiences, like just where you have no choice. It's
yeah,
like you get it done or you give up. And I can't think of a lot of men that I know that are just going to be like, well, that's the end of that. Pack it up and never do that again.
yeah. Let's go home with my tail between my legs, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. You can't, if you love something like traveling, there's this get it done mentality that I feel like just happens when you need to rise to the occasion as a human. Like we all have it in us. Some people just haven't had the chance to touch it.
Yeah,
When you need something to happen for your well-being, you're probably going to make it happen.
yeah. Well, and I'm aware of your time constraints, and I know we got 6 minutes left, which could be a lifetime of time. But I wonder, it makes me think about this book that I've started reading. It's called Grit: The Power of Passion and Perseverance, and by Angela Duckworth. And I haven't really talked about it on podcast very much, but it seems to tie in with this aspect of perseverance, like this aspect of get it done. Well, I don't. Well, it's raining outside and it's cold, and I don't want to do it. Well, do you want to live? Well, my conversation inside my own mind, and it sounds like inside your own mind as well. Well, do
Yeah.
you want to keep living?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, then get up and work on it, expletives and all this other stuff. Talking to myself, the words that get this old Marine moving. Well, come on, Gunny, get with
Yeah.
it, or whatever. And it's like, okay, where's my tools?
For
Get my
me, it was like,
flashlight.
do you want to eat some fresh crappie or do you want to eat an MRE again today?
There
Really
you
don't want
go.
that MRE. Really don't
I've
want
eaten a
that.
few MREs. I can definitely understand
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I was told that the civilian MREs that you can buy at surplus stores, I would buy them. They were like $100 for a box that came with maybe a month's supply of food.
Hmm.
And I was told that the military one and the civilian one were worlds different. Is that
I have no knowledge of civilian ones, but I do know military ones intimately.
it comes with the little brown paper towel rolled toilet papers.
Yeah,
You get your little baggie with the little instant coffee packet. Okay. Sometimes they'll come with like the cinnamon gum for your if you don't
sometimes.
have
Yeah.
access to water, you'll get the cinnamon gum and it'll make you salivate and help you go longer. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was something big that I learned from MREs that when I was cuz when I'm in between towns, I would try to like make my routes going from town to town so that in a day's walk I could make it somewhere else or at least
Yeah.
no more than 3 days walk. And so sometimes whenever you're I would have to boil my water and use my iodine tablets to purify water or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes you run out. Which, it's walking, 30 miles in a day and a half is no small task with a 100-pound bag on your back. That cinnamon gum was a lifesaver on more than one occasion where I just didn't have water. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I know that there's a Bucky's 9 miles away, but I'm really thirsty, and so those just chew that gum, and it will. I mean, you're still dehydrated, but
Yeah.
it's
Right. At least your mouth isn't stuck together and all this other
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I want to go on the backpack thing for a second because you're like a 100-pound backpack. And I saw the other day a guy has this system of a helium balloon he hooks up to his
I
backpack.
saw that. I saw
Isn't that
that.
crazy? I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
I needed
nuts.
that when I was in the Marine Corps, with a 110-pound pack.
Okay, I can't imagine how much like when you're walking into a 20-mile-an-hour headwind. I
Well,
don't
that's true.
I don't know how well that would work anymore.
You might just walk with the wind, whether you like
Yeah.
it or not. When you got the
Yeah, with
balloon
the
out, you're
wind.
walking with
And
the.
once the helium's dead, you're done. You just gotta carry it.
Well, I mean, maybe it lasts for a long time. I mean, they're getting better at plastics and all this other stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I saw that the other day and I was like, man, maybe the world is getting to be a better place. They're coming out with things that make my Marine Corps career. Of course, you can never get away with that. I mean, if I showed up with any nonsense like that, I'd be carrying 10 people's pack with no balloon. That's the way it would work.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Lance Corporal Evans. Okay, that's a good idea. Here's what we're gonna do instead.
What did the quality of gear look like in the Marine Corps? Like was y'all's gear
Well,
high quality?
I'm thinking about it. So when I started off in the early '90s, we had what was called the Alice Pack,
Yeah,
and
the Alice
it
pack.
was Vietnam era,
Yeah.
right? And maybe Korean era.
Those are still widely used today.
Well, and they're a good weight
Survivalist.
distribution pack and
Yeah.
stuff. And they hold a lot of stuff, and a lot of different shapes of stuff. I mean, and they have a frame. We had it with a frame, so
Yeah,
it was
that's
kind of
nice.
a pain, but it also allowed us to support more and support your good posture more with your
Yeah.
pack. And then we moved to another system with something similar to what you're talking about. I think it's Molly pack or something else. And it has a
Oh
day
yeah.
pack that clicks onto it, and you can disconnect your day pack, and it holds more stuff. And it's also got the strips where you can hook up your different
Yeah, and it's
holders on the outside.
and they'll still come with like Alice kind of aspects so that you can Velcro on
Right.
different things.
Yeah.
But that's what I was wanting to get at, like quality of gear in any kind of nomadic lifestyle like yours. Like maybe OEM original axle parts aren't the best thing to go for when you're traveling 3,000 miles,
Well, and that's a good point. And I have an uncle. He's in a fifth wheel, and he has two 3,500 pound axles that were on his fifth wheel, and he took them off and put 5,000 pound axles on.
yeah,
Two 5,000 pound axles for his reasons, and he's really smart about that. He's lived the RV lifestyle for
yeah,
twice as long as I've been alive. So, he's, or almost twice as long. So he's an expert at it, knows what to do. He's a
yeah.
welder. He's like, oh, I just need to weld another thing on there.
That's kind
For me,
of
that's, yeah,
what I did with my gear choice for the setup that I was going with for walking. Was I went to three different I did my research online, and then I went to three different surplus stores and I looked at the military sleeping systems. And I kind of went off these videos on modern and I don't know what you would call it, modern era military, and then, you know,
sure,
the older style sleeping systems. And I kind of chose what was best for me, but I went with like performance sports gear. So like I would choose things that were more updated and had a higher quality feel and made me feel a
sure,
little sportier.
yeah,
And maybe for RV camping that would be good too, like performance wheel bearings so that they don't, getting something that is a little more high performance than the kind of like they know that a lot of people buy those RVs just to keep them in their driveway for the next 20 years before they sell it on marketplace. But for someone who actually uses their gear for what it's meant to do, our capitalist society, they like to make these parts that are cheap and then sell it to you like, oh yeah, this is mountaineering gear, but it's really not. And so you need to kind
right,
of kind of buy your own add-ons and accessories that make something personalized to your journey. It's kind of like before I would because I went on three different trips. Once just up to Big Bend from Corpus Christi, and then I went up into the Panhandle, kind of Oklahoma, and then I made my big journey from Texas, Texarkana, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Tennessee. But before I went on my journeys, I would always pick a weekend or something to test my new gear, and that's
mm.
always a big thing.
Well, I know you had a time constraint, and we want to get you to what you got going on next.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you joining me today, and I look forward to hearing you on future episodes as well, because it's been such a fun time. And thanks, Brian.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Aaron. It was awesome.